So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what we call statutory offers of settlement. This is specifically for Wisconsin. Minnesota and Iowa have something similar, but in my experience are not near as favorable to at least the plaintiff. So offers of settlement is this, what I'm going to be talking about is from the perspective of the person that's bringing the lawsuit. Typically, the other side, the defense, can also bring what's called an offer of judgment. But for this video, I'm just talking about offers of settlement from the standpoint of the plaintiff. So, in Wisconsin, we have a statute, and it's the statute is 807.01. Actually, I'll grab it. Let's see. These are old books, but they're still, this law hasn't changed. So it's 807.01. And what it does is, settlement negotiations take place throughout litigation in most cases, sometimes in mediation or whatever. But settlement negotiations are typically confidential. And aren't admissible to the court. The jury, if there's a jury trial, doesn't hear about it. 807.01 is sort of an exception to that rule. And what it does is it allows a party to formally offer to settle for a certain amount of money with the other side. And under the statute, the other side has 10 days to consider it. I think it's 10 business days. So 10 business days from receipt of the offer to accept it. And the way that the rule works is if the other side accepts it, they file with the court an acceptance of service of that. And I think a judgment can even be entered in favor of the plaintiff. But usually offers of settlement are not accepted or they're outright rejected. If the party doesn't respond within 10 days, it's considered a rejection. Why do we do offers of settlement? So we do offers of settlement in certain cases to put some pressure on the other side. Because what happens with an offer of settlement, one side is saying, hey, I'm willing to resolve this litigation for X number of dollars. And if the other side thinks, well, I think I could do better in that at trial, and if they go to trial and they get a better result, then there's no harm or penalty to the other side. However, if the party that served the offer of settlement gets a result that's better than what they were willing to accept in the offer of settlement, let's say we serve an offer of settlement of $100,000 on the defense and insurance company. Let's say this is a car accident or something like that. And we serve an offer of settlement of $10,000 on them. They have 10 days, $100,000 on them. They have 10 days to either accept or reject that. If they reject it and we go to trial and we get a judgment or verdict and a judgment of, let's say, $120,000, we've now obviously gotten more money than we were willing to settle for at the offer of settlement, and more money than the insurance company or defense had an opportunity to pay to avoid all that. And so what the statute does in that case is it does two things to the side that turned down the offer of settlement. Number one is it doubles the allowable court costs. So if you prevail in a lawsuit, the statutes under the rules, and this varies by state, but generally award the prevailing party certain costs and expenses. That would include like filing fees. So when you file a lawsuit, there's usually a fee with that. You have to pay the sheriff to go serve papers. That's an expense. You might take depositions. You got to pay a court reporter. That's an expense. You pay a jury fee. All those kinds of expenses are considered taxable costs that the prevailing party is allowed to tack on to the verdict or the judgment in addition to the amount that's actually awarded. So under the offer of settlement statute, if a party served an offer of settlement, the offer was rejected, and they get a better result at trial, the court will then double whatever those allowable costs are. It's not a ton of money, but sometimes it can be, a few $1,000s in a case that's litigated quite a bit, and then it doubles that. So that's sort of the penalty for it. But probably the more important penalty penalty, I guess, for a party that refuses to accept an offer of settlement is it actually starts to accrue interest. So that offer, whatever the amount is, either when it's made or when their deadline was to respond, so give or take 10 days, if they turn down the offer of settlement and you go to trial and you get a result that's better than that offer of settlement, the court will or can, I think either can or must, award you interest at a rate, I think it's 1% plus the prime rate. So the prime rate changes every year. In the past, for a while, the interest rate was very low, so it was 1% plus like 2%, right? Now the interest rates are actually pretty high. I was looking at this the other day for an offer of settlement that I'm going to be serving, and I think the prime rate for this year is 8 or 9%, something like that. So I think it was 8 something plus 1%, so it was in the 9%. And that interest starts to run from either the time the offer is made or when it was supposed to be accepted, up through trial and until it's paid, which is can be can be a significant amount of money and put some pressure on the other side to accept that. So that's one of the reasons why we do offers of settlement. The purpose of the offer of settlement statute is to avoid trials and litigation when one party has given the other side an opportunity to settle on reasonable and fair terms. We know they're reasonable and fair terms because by definition, the other side has gotten a better result at trial after everyone went through the time and expense and the court system went through the process of having a trial. So it is designed to keep a party from just running other parties through the litigation process because they have the money and resources to do so. They take a gamble. They can only do that if they are confident that they're going to do better at trial than the offer of settlement. And so that's kind of the offer of settlement. It's, in my experience, is typically not extended because we think the other side will accept it, although if they do, great. So the number needs to be something that if they should accept it, you would be happy with. So it's not a random number. It's sort of the lowest number that you would be willing to accept now if they in fact agree to pay it, because you want to keep that threshold as low as possible. You want that number to be the lowest amount that you would be willing to take right now, so that it's it's an easier number to beat at trial. Essentially, you don't want to do a super high number for an offer of settlement. You want it to be as low as possible, but yet something that you would be willing to accept if they do in fact agree to do that. It's something that doesn't come up in every case. I certainly don't do this in all my cases, but usually the case reaches a point where the parties will know each other's positions. We've made kind of our lowest demand, and then once we've made that lowest demand informally, or let's say at mediation confidentially, this just kind of adds some pressure to that and says, hey, I was willing to take $100,000 at mediation. I'm still willing. I'm going to give you 10 days to think about it. And if we get better than $10,000 at trial, we're going to make you pay for it. And that is something that we can do in Wisconsin. It can, even if it doesn't get accepted at the time, it's something that's sort of looming over the insurance company's head as the case gets closer to trial. And so anyway, that's the offer of settlement. It's unique to Wisconsin. Minnesota and Iowa will have a similar rule. I'll do a separate video on those because it's a different rule. a different process and standard, but I hope that helps explain what an offer of settlement is, how it's used, how it works, and why we might do it in a particular case. So if anyone has questions about any of that, send me a message or leave a comment below.